Top of the morning folks, today from the Reddit Rainforest. Just watched a young woman pull a toddler out of oncoming traffic, only to get shouted at by the mother for touching her kid. What kind of malarkey has just flabbergasted you, Reddit? This happens a lot lifeguarding. I spent about 5 summers as a ocean/lake lifeguard. Over the years me or another guard have saved countless kids who are drowning or about to go under, only to get back to shore and have a parent there screaming ... at us. IDKY. But really rarely did we actually get a thankful parent. We assumed it was due to the parent's embarrassment and heightened emotions coming off as aggression and anger. 10 PM Orlando. I witness a senior citizen fall down at a supermarket. I offer my hand and he proceeds to yell at me and curse me for being foreign. He says something like I do not need any help, especially from you. I help him stand up against his will and he was red-faced. He recovered his breath and saw me standing beside him. No one else came to his aid. He then said, "That was very rude from my part. I feel so humiliated. Getting old sucks, you know." Saw him a couple of times in the same super. He always said hi and apologized every time. I saw a kid, probably about 11 or 12, spit on this old man and laugh about it. The old man flipped out. The kid cried. Parents of the kid and other people around flipped out at the old man. Everyone was a dick. Happens to me all the time. I'm a DJ and you have no idea how many kids think it's a fun idea to climb a lighting stand with 150 pounds of lighting effects on it. But you say one word to precious little suicidal Jimmy and their parents start screaming at you to leave their kid alone. I usually just point and say 150 lbs, 115 volts. I'm insured. Your call. Usually parents are too embarrassed at having a stranger save their kid for them because they were not paying attention. Working at a water park, I found most parents would just snatch their kids away from the lifeguard who saved them from drowning in the kiddie pool without a word. I used to be an aquatics director, and I had one lady get mad after we rescued her kid. She protested saying he was just playing. She should know because she used to be a lifeguard. That sort of crap. I looked at her and said I had seen her kid do absolutely nothing to demonstrate he could adequately swim, and told her if she wanted I could spend a few minutes teaching her kid. She scoffed at that. Then I had her sign an incident report, showing her where she could provide her interpretation of what happened if she wanted. The next day, when we had to jump in after her kid again, she also jumped in the pool. My guard pulled her kid out before she even got close. From her lack of technique, I doubt she was ever a lifeguard. She would not even talk to us after that. I was about 7 and just had eye surgery on both my eyes a few days before. I was still dealing with blurry vision due to the ointment my mom put in them. My parents decided to treat my siblings and I to going out for frozen yogurt. Sitting at the frozen yogurt shop, partially blind, a 20-some-year-old guy and his girlfriend walk in. Mind you, I can pretty much see just fuzzy colors. She turns around and sees me looking in her direction. Explicitly she curses at me. I did not budge. I could not tell it was me she was screaming at. When she finally took a breath, my little sister, about 5-ish, replied, "Is that how you talk to blind people? Nice." Giving someone their wallet they just dropped, then having them look at you like you stole it and gave it back to them. Every ducking time. I have found a fair few wallets in my day, always sending them back to their owners, or giving, if they're in the area. I have never been thanked, and I have even had people try and call the cops on me for picking it up off the ground for them. I recently lost my wallet, and if it was returned I'd thank the person profusely and give them a reward. Not ditch and give that stare that makes you feel like you're a ducking child being humiliated. I work at a clothing store, and one day a panicked woman approached me saying she had lost her child in the store. I called the manager, who called a code Adam. Procedures for missing children. Lock the doors. Basically stop all functions of the store to search for the kid. Then the mother looks down at her stroller, gasps, and proclaims, "Oh my god." I left her in the car after realizing she had been pushing an empty stroller around the store for a while. I found a cell phone on the ground after an outdoors concert and I tried looking for a home number or anything that might be job related and did not find anything like that to call and notify him. A nice stranger found his phone and he could come pick it up from me. So I called the most recent couple guys on the top of his call log. Turns out he was with one of them. So I'll let him know he can pick it up at this gas station that would hold it for them, and I'll let him know I personally am friends with the employees and they'll keep it safe for him. He starts yelling at me for being an asshole and I calmly tell him he can pick it up at the gas station as I was leaving to go camping the next morning. Then the malarkey he was saying was getting ruder and threatening. Duck it. I no longer want to help this guy. Based on how many times he called me faggot over the phone, it was a safe assumption to say him and his friends are a little homophobic. I decided to text every single one of his friends I have. Always wanted to tell you. You have the most beautiful eyes. Most his male contacts responded with things like WTF happened to you. Do not text me that gay malarkey sort of answers. Every female responded either who is this or along the lines of that's so sweet ... But I changed phones. Who is this? Poor guy. ISN not too good with the ladies apparently, since he currently talked to none of the women ... Just had their numbers. Creepy. Oh, also, his phone is sitting on the bottom of a lake where I went camping the next day. To sum it up, found random phone. Tried to get it back to guy. Has an asshole. All his friends have beautiful eyes. Similar story. I was walking down a main street in a college town. After getting some coffee, I pass by this restaurant. And I see this little boy. He could not be older than 5. Has just milling away. And I ask him where his parents are. He replies, I do not know. And then he looks like he's about to cry. I walk him up to the restaurant to see if his parents are in there. But I did not touch him. BTW. His dad walks towards me and gives me the dirtiest look. He did not say anything. But you could tell that he thought I was some kind of creep. Yeah. Blame the 21-year-old who just wanted to make sure the child was not abducted. I got kicked off a bus once because the driver thought my clarinet was suspicious. I even opened the case and showed her what was inside. An instrument and some sheet music. Junior year of high school. We had a ton of completely incompetent technology assistants. I was in accounting, and one of them walked in. We normally worked on these crappy little IBMs, and would only work if plugged in. When class ended, kids just unplugged them instead of actually shutting them down. When started up the next time, the desktop recovery screen would always pop up. Anyway, the technology lady walked in and asked our teacher, who was also a psychotic bitch, if she could install antivirus software to fix the weird desktop recovery screen thing. I was trying to be helpful and told the tech lady that it was because students were improperly shutting down their computers. She looked at me like I was daft and continued on her way installing some off-brand antivirus software. I did not want to waste anyone's time, so I showed the tech lady that if you normally shut down the computer, it would be right back to normal. I took one of the laptops with the desktop recovery error and did as I had said, started it back up, and it was perfectly fine. I was sent to talk to my dean for being disrespectful. I was a pretty shy and quiet kid, so I know it was not in the manner how I had spoken. To sum it up, screw people that think they know more on a subject because of a title. I used to work at Old Navy, and one day I had a fitting room shift. A woman comes in with her 3 babies, ages like 3, 2, and 6 months, and requests the handicapped fitting room. Fine. That's normal for mothers with kids. These handicapped rooms, unlike the other fitting rooms, do not have the gap between the floor and the door. All the rooms lock from the inside. I have a key, of course. After the woman tries on her first set of clothing, she keeps her kids locked in the room as she proceeds to shop for her next set of clothing. After a couple of minutes, all I hear is loud banging on the walls, screaming and crying, and sounds of the kids falling on the floor and crying. I did not know how to check if they were hurt without opening the door. I should have called the manager. But my 17-year-old self isn't not thinking straight, I guess. Anyways, I finally decide to open the door after realizing that mom isn't not coming back soon. The floors are concrete, so a kid could have gotten seriously hurt. I opened the door and the kids were fine. But after about 20 minutes the mom was nowhere in sight and the smallest one was screaming and crying. So I picked him up and held him until his mom came back. She came in and gave me a dirty look asking why I was holding her child. And I explained. She snatched him from me and headed back to the fitting room. I was on my way to my friend's apartment, a co-op ghetto place that runs rampant with little kids. I have become accustomed to seeing kids as young as 2, 3 outside playing without an adult in sight. I see this little boy who looked barely 3 out playing by the jungle gym, which was about 100 feet from my friend's place. There were other kids around, but none seemed to be looking after him. An hour later, he's still there but seemed stressed. He starts to look around and starts to quietly say mama ... 20 minutes go by and he's starting to cry. I go over because now he is completely alone and asked if he knew where his mom was. He said no. She said go play and wait for her. At this point he'd been by himself for almost 2 hours. I asked if he remembers where he lived. He nods and I ask if he wants me to take him home. I already knew his mom probably did not care or whatever, but I hated seeing him so upset. I start walking with him towards where he thinks his home is. I tell my friend to watch the park in case his mom actually comes. I do not want to go too far, but the kid insists he knows where he lives. He walks me to the apartment next to my friend's, a whole other complex, and he goes to his door. We knock. Nothing. I knock on a neighbor's door and they say they haven't not seen his mom. We walk back towards the park. It is now getting darker and I'm worried, so I contemplate calling the cops. My friend and I give the kid something to drink and a snack and wait. Another hour and nothing. I say duck it and call the cops. They come and start talking to me and I tell them everything. They do their thing. Check names. Go to the apartment he says it is. And just as they were deciding to take him thinking he was lost or abandoned, his mother comes flying out of an apartment that was across from the park. She starts screaming at me and the cops and saying I just watched this damned Trina kidnap my son. Blah blah blah. The cops obviously did not buy her claim and proceeded to arrest her. Oh, and it gets better. Apparently, she was in her pimp's apartment filming what could be compared to as a gangbang naked PR clear. She could not finish filming and her pimp is pissed. Needless to say, I'm not going to my friend's apartment anytime soon. Oh, and I guess the father had been fighting for custody, but the mother needed the kid for a meal ticket and would put on a horse and pony show about how great she was. Well, this sealed the deal and the boys with his father who, from what I heard, is actually a great dad. To sum it up, mom was getting stuffed 8 ways from Sunday while 3-year-old son was left alone at the park. 3+ hour later she emerges and accuses me of kidnap. This past weekend I was at a wedding for a buddy of mine that I grew up with. I found a camera under one of the tables during the reception. It happened to belong to one of the bridesmaids. I know this because of all the ugly duck face photos she took on it. I spotted her in the crowd and went over to give it back to her. This bitch had the nerves to call hotel security on me for stealing her camera. Quick sneaky reminder to remind you to like the video if you're liking it so far, and subscribe if you have not yet. I was sitting in a waiting room playing Angry Birds on my tablet and a little kid, probably around 5, clambered up on the chair next to me and sat there watching me play. Mildly annoying but tolerable. After about 10 minutes, the inattentive mother all of a sudden and out of nowhere looks up and shrieks, "What are you showing him?" and jumped up and grabbed the kid and retreated, giving me the dirtiest death glare I have ever seen. I flipped the tablet over, showed her the game, and told her that the bored little dude was just watching me play. Did not matter. Kids need to stay the bleep away from me, or at least the spawns of suburban tracked home trash need to. I pulled a guy out of an upside down burning car, post major car crash, and got screamed at by one then 2 women that moving him might have caused spinal damage. I was basically harassed off the scene by this hysterical woman, herself a passerby, and ended up just driving off. Hope the guy lived. While I was in uniform waiting for my flight home from training across the country, a little boy, maybe about 3 or 4, walked up to me crying and asked if I was G.I. Joe and if I could help him find his parents. Of course I agreed, hoisted him up onto my shoulders so he might be able to spot them, and walked around the terminal towards the help desk asking him what color shirts his parents were wearing, if he knew where they all were traveling to, etc. Just to hopefully identify and find them faster. I took the Velcro US Army tab off my uniform and gave it to him to keep. Kids love those things for some reason, and show off to his friends. When he got home, he eventually stopped crying because he knew he was going to find his parents with G.I. Joe on his side when we did find them at the help desk. Nonetheless, his mom roughly snatched him from my shoulders and the father loudly accused me of trying to kidnap and molest his son. They were making a general scene, causing people to stop and look at a pair of parents accusing me of essentially being a monster. Basically I was being belittled and made to feel like nothing and the biggest scumbag ever. But, as the parents were storming off with the boy, he turned around, smiled, said thanks for helping me find my mom and dad, and waved the Velcro tab in his hand. So I felt a little better and people who witnessed what had just happened understood I was just trying to help the kid. To sum it up, lost kid thought I was G.I. Joe. Parents thought I was pedoba. Welcome to the end of the video. Do not worry, there are many more. Come aboard for more adventures. Like and subscribe for more posts from the Reddit Rainforest. Thanks for watching.